have we been talking about doing this?
Oh my gosh.
It's probably been like 4 or 5 years at least, right?
4 or 5, yeah. We keep talking about doing it, and then we get busy. Life gets busy.
Life gets busy. And what's interesting is that, you define what busy is. And I think that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this, is because I know you and I scroll a lot, in our downtime. We do scroll, right?
Yes, we do.
Everybody doom scrolls, right? And I sit there and I'll scroll, and then I'll text Rasha and I'll say, look, like these guys are doing something. We should be doing something. We should do something local, Windsor, Essex oriented.
Yep.
And here we are. So I love it. And we're at your location on Dougal, so why not?
Yes.
Yeah, and you know what's great about it is we're partners, right? We have a professional, like I say, connection. Rasha does an amazing job for my clients, and I know her clients also sometimes rely on me to help them buy or sell.
Yeah.
So we wanted to give a interesting look on what I think is a big shift in the market from a mortgage perspective, and then certainly from a real estate perspective as we head into 2026 and beyond.
Something that we get asked about almost every day. People ask me, what do you think about the market? Even though I'm not a realtor, I'm a mortgage agent, and people ask me all the time, what do you think about the market? Like, is this a good time to sell, buy? Yeah.
I think that's, and we get that a lot too with me and my team. Ron and Debbie, my partners, they've been doing it. I always joke around, Ron and Debbie have been doing real estate longer than I was born. They've been like 45 years, 43 years in the business. I'm very lucky to have them on my team. But, the market, a lot of people say is cyclical. We see ups and we see downs. Certainly the last 3 or 4 years have been unprecedented in terms of growth and how people are valuing their homes. We've seen that with, the price of homes, obviously huge in the Windsor Essex area and across Canada as well.
Yes.
I think definitely in the next few years, we're in for some changes. And I'm starting to see that change happen on the ground from showings and buying and selling. And a lot of the clients that I work with, I know that we work with in tandem. And I think it's going to continue to change. You'd said, people say to you all the time, is it a good time to sell or is it a bad time to sell? What I usually tell my clients, then my question to you is, why are you selling?
Yeah. Exactly.
Why are you buying? What life changes are happening? Because you don't necessarily time the market, it's really what's happening in your life at that point.
Correct. Yes. Like I have a client right now that is debating if they live in a beautiful home, 2-story, they're a young couple, they're having a baby and they have 2 children, and even though it's a 2-story, but like just the layout of the home doesn't really fit their lifestyle. So they're looking at, do they renovate?
Sure.
Or do they, and spend 160, because you know how much it is right now to like renovate a home, right?
Oh, yeah.
And spend like $150,000 or $160,000, or do they sell as is and purchase that next home? And what do you think of that? What are you finding today? Like, what are people doing? I'm sure there's a lot of people in this market right now that are debating that.
Yeah, and that's a great question too. Sometimes it does make sense. Like we pride ourselves in terms of Ron, Debbie, and myself. Like if it's not a good fit, if we don't see if the math ain't mathin', as they say, then you need to stay put. I do think a lot of folks, I don't want to say over leveraged, but certainly may have bitten off a little bit more financially than they can chew. And then you have to take a look at the home itself, the neighborhood, the condition, what major economic forces are happening. Like we could do a whole show on, wait 5 minutes and they're going to make another announcement about the Gordie Howe Bridge. Is it on? Is it off? Who's paying for it? Who's going to own it? Tariffs, the list goes on and on. I mean, it changes minute by minute. But when you take a look at what you can put into your home, what I like to tell my clients is, there's some great options. If you're finding a home that maybe needs a little bit of work or maybe it's not to your style, then you go to Rasha, you talk to her about a purchase plus improvements, and then Rasha and her team will work with me so we know our numbers going in and we can connect you with the right contractors to make that happen. But for me as a realtor, I really want to make sure that I'm accessing equity for my clients. So I always joke around, if I'm fat and I'm balder in 20 years and you come back and you want me to list a home, we can have some really good news because you've put some money in that you can pull it out and make a profit to move on to the next chapter of your life. But it's hard to do, right? So
Yeah.
A lot of folks are saying, I want the bigger kitchen. We are expecting a little one. I'm working with 2 buyer clients right now that are expecting their first.
Okay.
And, and they said it was just her and I, and the husband said, no problem. We were easy to do a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Now, I have my daughter on the way, and we have to find the place for it. And I have 2 kids at home, so I'm like, as soon as especially when you have a daughter, you're gonna have all sorts of stuff. You're gonna need that space. So does it make more sense for you to look at something that you can build onto? Because I always say to my clients too, Rome was not built in a day, right? So if you're gonna plan those...
I like that saying.
Right? Like if you're gonna plan those renovations, like I say to my wife, Carrie, God bless you, I'm not gonna do 1,000 renovations in 1 week. Like she wants it now. She watches HGTV and she's like, I need it now, right? So I'm like, spread it out, make a budget for it, find out what's going to get you the best return on your investment. Because I'll often see too, people will go to sell their house, Rasha, and they're like, well, we just put in a renovation of a brand new bathroom. Well, why didn't you do that 5 years ago? Well, because we were moving. Well, now somebody's going to enjoy your new renovation.
Yeah.
And you haven't really used it. So there's strategy behind the renovations as well, if it makes sense for you to stay put.
And I do find that a lot of times, and I don't know if a lot of people could relate to this, you buy a home and you start renovations maybe like a year or 2 later.
Yep.
And then 5 years later, you want to sell. You want to sell, and you're like wondering, why did I do all these renovations just to sell afterwards, But I find that planning is so important. Like when I sit down with clients and we look at the math, to me, numbers are very important. Okay. So if you owe $200,000 on a mortgage and you're gonna sell your house for $600,000, minus all the expenses and all of that goes with selling a home, what do you end up with? And then if you're gonna buy another house, are you gonna put all your down payment, all of the money coming from the sale, are you gonna put that down? Or this next house, is it gonna need $100,000 in renovations? So then do we put $100,000 aside for those renovations? It would be, it's hard, like when I get clients that call me about 6 months later after they purchase a home, they ask, can we pull out $100,000 that we put down on this purchase? And that's where we go back and we have to get a home equity line of credit. Sure. So planning is very important. Right from the get-go, do we attach a home equity line of credit in case this is needed in the future? Sometimes, I have clients that say to me, oh, I don't need a home equity line of credit. But how about if you wanted to put a pool in your backyard, or you need $20,000 for the roof because it's like 20 years old? You don't think of that, or maybe you don't. Planning is important. I really think planning, knowing your numbers, knowing your math, knowing what your expenses are is important. Yeah.
One of the things I noticed too, especially in the last 4 months, during the height of COVID, from my side as being a realtor, a lot of people were buying houses, not necessarily sight unseen, but they were buying houses without the home inspection, without financing clauses. And those are all, like we were talking over the holidays about how certainly the financing clause has been come back in full force. And then the whole appraiser factor, which we're trying to educate our clients to say what an appraisal means, right? But when it comes to home inspection, if you talk about planning, I work with some great, I call them the Rashas of home inspection, right? Where we implicitly trust them, and they do an amazing job for our clients, and they're sort of at our beck and call to make sure, because sometimes you put a home inspection clause in and you got to get it satisfied within 72 hours, 5 days, 5 business days, right? So time is of the essence when you have conditional offer. But what I do for clients is look, you can argue certain things that come up in a home inspection because you're still buying a used home, right?
Yeah.
And there's always going to be things that need to be changed. There's cosmetic things. You may not like the wallpaper, Anna Stell's old chandelier and you know what I mean? You may, I can argue those, but those are sort of a moot point, right? Because that's all preference. Somebody could just buy the house and say, I'm good with that wallpaper, I'm good with Anna Stell's chandelier, right? Where the home inspection for me as a realtor really becomes a bit surgical with our team when you talk about planning is to know the less sexy renovations, right? The roof, the windows, foundational issues, HVAC, things that are big ticket items that will improve the value of your home and comfort level of your home too, But we got to make sure that you budget for those. If, say, the windows are maybe on their last leg,
Yeah.
what does that look like? How long can you get use out of that? So to me, home inspections are so important because you know what you're buying. Home inspectors will look for knob and tube wiring. They'll look for, older high-tech plumbing. Oh my God, that's still a thing. And how do we
Asbestos too,
asbestos,
like, yeah.
100%, right? But having that plan, so then I, as your agent, can either argue those concessions in the conditional offer, or we can work with the seller to say, this is what we're going to do. So then you can then go to Rasha and her team and say, you know what, we do need to put a new HVAC in. We got maybe about 3 or 4 years left. We can plan for that. Because those are big ticket items, right? Like a lot of people don't have, we were looking at getting a metal roof on our place in Amherstburg, and they're fantastic, and it's costly, right?
Yeah,
it's not
it is
like anybody's got like a ton of money lying around.
Yeah, budgeting is important. I love to sit, especially with younger couples, I love to sit down and they're starting their life together. And of course they like their everyday expenses, like Tim Hortons is, you spend $2-3 on a coffee, multiply that by 30 days, that's an expense, but you don't think about it because it's $2-3 a day. So it's important to know your money, know your cash flow, your strategy, and planning. Planning is important. I get this question asked all the time. Where do you think the market is going? I've been doing this since 1999. I've been in the mortgage industry since then, and I've seen the ups and downs. And I've only seen property values, they'll sometimes do this, but then they only go up. Do you remember back in 99? When I first started, I bought my first home in Tecumseh for $144,000 or $142,000.
That's so wild, right?
99. That same house is, if it were to go back on the market today, that the family selling it will probably get $800,000 for it. Okay,
wow.
So what I'm trying to say is that in 99 you could have bought a house for $142,000. Then in 2005, 2008, that $140,000 house now is, let's say, $240,000 or $250,000.
Yep.
And then when you get to 2010 or to 2012, that same house now is $3-something, right? Then 2020, 2021, that house went to, actually that house might have gone to $1 million back during COVID.
People always say about that COVID, I guess, it's not hysteria, but in very many ways it was. That was a number of unprecedented factors, I think. Everybody realized they got to stay home with their wife or husband, so they need a bigger house, right? Yeah. And you talk about the immigration, that Canada obviously opened up the floodgates to. There was a lot of contributing factors to the price drive, but I know what you're saying, the values just went to the moon.
Yeah, but are we going to say this? Because I can even go back, let's say 1980s. Home prices were, I was only 5 years old back then. But that same house, it was probably $80-something thousand, right? So when you, 10, 15 years from now, are we going to kick ourselves in the, to say we should have bought those homes when they were in the 500 range, because today they're all hovering around $1 million. How did I know that $140,000 home was going to be $800 today?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So, and a lot of people in our industry talk about date the rate, marry the home. So you marry the house, and then the rates can come and go.
And I love that too, because that's a term that we use. And then I also tell clients that I work with and families and people going through life changes too. You marry the home, date the rate, get yourself a good mortgage broker and let them keep you aware of what's happening with rates. I think that's a huge thing, because we've seen that now, even with people realizing, they had COVID money or COVID rates where it's 1.9, 2%. Now they're going up to 4%. And if you've over leveraged, or if you've spent more, and we know that the economy right now is not as healthy as it could be in Windsor, Essex. That's a bit of a financial pullback for a lot of folks. So it's really balancing that. But, you know, it's hard to say because like I don't think, you know, there's a lot of people that I run into like, oh, the market's crashing. I don't think it's a crash. I don't think so. I think it's a correction. And I think things are changing a bit, but I don't think it's a full-fledged crash because from the builder side, because we work with a lot of builders too, you know, the County of Essex, and I should watch what I say here, had come out with the idea over the last few weeks to increase development charges on new builds to $12,000. You know, there was quite a few realtors with our board, the Windsor Essex County Association of Realtors, who had voiced our opinions to our elected officials to say, look, this in a housing crisis, because the supply is so tight in certain values, right? Does it make sense if they're not selling now, why are we charging developers even more to build these homes? So I think this is really going to be a story, like you had said, we don't really know what's going to happen in the future. I wish we both had a crystal ball, but I think we can use the best data that we have in front of us. But to see them, you know, settle, I think it was 8,500 they're going to do, I think across the County of Essex, correct me if I'm wrong, around the 8 mark for development charges. You take a look at that, it's still a handcuff on these builders, but you know, that still restricts the supply because, you know, those $399 new builds are not happening. $499 new builds. It's hard to justify that because the price of everything is so high right now.
And then plus when you buy a new build, you still have to finish the driveway and
that's right.
And the grass and all of that. It doesn't come with the new build. The fence has to go up.
Fence has to go up, lawn, if you want to do the landscaping, basements aren't finished. You know, there's other things there too. So, you know, I maintain that if somebody can figure out, you know, you go back to Windsor during 1940s, right? I mean, you go into South Walkerville when they had those wartime houses, the 2-bedroom, 2-bath. They're still very popular in that region. If somebody can figure out a way to do something similar to that at a cost-effective price point, I say all the time, I would love to be involved in that and help families get into those homes because then you're bringing those people into the market because as they grow as a family, then they move up to the next step. And it's just finding the developers. I know there's some interesting projects that are happening in the county that have been kind of low key, but you know, some of the builders we work with, I've really advised them, like I said, look, if you can find a way to make this make sense, to build something around the $499, even $549 mark, and it doesn't have to be Taj Mahal, right? But still nice. I think you can really do well because I think that's underserved. That particular subsection.
And I find too, from the applications that I take now, I find that a lot of families are building, like buying homes and building suites in the lower levels or building ADUs, accessory dwelling units in their backyards. And one thing that's great about Windsor, because you know I talk to other brokers in other cities, is that we have big lots. We have good sized lots for these homes. You go to Kitchener or London, the lots are very small, and they don't allow for accessory dwelling units in the backyards. So in Windsor, and surrounding areas, we have bigger lots. We're able to put those 500 square foot units for the, like, let's say, a mom and dad or a grandparent to live in the backyard, or even your children that are growing up and they're teenagers and they want or not, maybe like in their 20s.
Sure.
So
to give them their independence, but still being part of the unit.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I'm finding a lot of that is happening right now.
Which is not, like, that whole concept of an ADU, it's funny because this has really taken hold over, I'd say, the course of COVID into now. It's very common in Europe and extremely common in Asia. For whatever reason, North America has always been different in that aspect, but we're seeing more of that multi-generational cohabitation happen with families because really, like, I remember growing up, like when my great-grandmother was starting to, you know, need a lot more support. She lived over in Riverside and we lived in Walkerville. So we were, I mean, that's not a huge hike, but in Windsor standards, that's about a 15-minute drive. And we had to go and get her groceries. And God bless, like, she was okay and we made it work for as long as she could still live alone. But now, like in our scenario with my wife, Carrie, and I, My mother-in-law and my father-in-law, we've actually just moved them out of Colchester, and we've got them around the corner from us in our subdivision.
Oh, nice.
And that's a bit of strategy for us, because like usually it's like I could toss my kids over there, and I got a built-in babysitter, and it's like, here, take them. But it's also a strategy for us too, because realistically, my wife and I are going to help them age in place as long as they can, and it allows us to be there when they need us, but also minimize on the commute time.
Yes.
Minimize on the worry, get a built-in babysitter. And it's great for the kids too, because my kids are even talking about it this summer, because they're getting a little bit older, to bike over to grandma and grandpa's.
Yeah, that's nice.
So it's really having that sort of mindset, I think, as North Americans, Canadians, to say like, having that multi-generational, whether it is an ADU, mother-in-law suite, or something in the basement for grandma or whoever it is, I think it does work.
Yeah.
And if it's done right, it can add value to the home.
Yeah.
WeCar, our board has come out and said that last month in January, we're in buyer market territory. Last February, when President Trump got back into office, Ron, my partner, and I were one of the few realtor teams here locally that really advised our clients, look, this is going to be some uncertainty. We've seen that. I think we've seen that with a lot of the big manufacturers move over to the States. Whether or not he stays in office, whether or not the Republicans stay in office, like the only thing you can be certain is the uncertainty, and that directly affects, not necessarily people buying or selling homes, but it affects the sentiment of people, right?
Yeah.
If they feel uneasy, if they're not sure about their job, they delay those bigger purchases because they don't know where they're going to stand in 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So we've really looked at what does Windsor offer versus a GTA scenario. You and I have talked about the condo situation in Toronto right now.
Yes.
It's not good.
No.
And we say, Ron and I say that what happens in Toronto is sort of the canary in the coal mine here locally. So they've got all these condos that they're not selling. I do know that there's been a few buildings locally, condos that have been put on hold just because of
what's happening there.
Of what's happening in Toronto, and because buyer sentiment is changing a bit, because those prices, they're not flatlining, but they are starting to stabilize slowly. So people are having options to go, and then that affects rent, and then that affects, it's all cyclical, right? So I think from a mortgage perspective, are you seeing a lot of that?
What I was actually going to say is that I'm finding a lot of people, I don't know if you're saying this, but because people now are allowed to work remotely, I am seeing a lot of people moving to Windsor. Do you see that too?
Yeah, we are seeing that. During the boom, we saw a lot of people come from the GTA area.
GTA, Kitchener, London. Hamilton.
Yep.
Because a house in Windsor that's priced, let's say, at $1 million, easy in Kitchener. That same house in Windsor, and correct me if I'm wrong, is priced at maybe around 700 here?
Yeah, give or take,
Right.
depending on the condition and
Right.
the amenities in the home itself, the renovations, things like that. Yeah.
So you could sell a house in Kitchener for $1 million, and let's say your mortgage on it is $400,000. You could come here and buy a house, same house, for $700,000, and now your mortgage is minimal. Or you can invest that difference, or maybe even buy another property and have a bigger portfolio and grow that, instead of like living in a bigger, like cities like Kitchener and London, and your price values are higher. I don't know, what do you think of that?
I agree with that, because a lot of the folks in my neighborhood, at least, we get to start talking to our kids are at the park, and oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Hamilton. Like this gentleman, I bring up Hamilton because he's relocated here because he works with one of the big banks, and he does a lot of risk assessment, and he said, for what we had in the Hamilton area versus the quality of life here, I don't have to commute an hour and a half. Right, so I'm telecommuting, I'm doing the Zoom and all that kind of stuff, but I'm able to enjoy a lot of the amenities that Windsor, like we complain as Windsorites or Essex County residents, I got to drive from Amherstburg to Bell River, that's going to be 30 minutes. That's nothing for somebody who's in Hamilton, right? They come down here and they're like, you guys are surrounded by water generally, and you've got different boroughs, different areas of Essex County that really have different flavors. Like I was talking to a client in Leamington, and they're like, oh, we're thinking about moving to Windsor, but it's such a hike. And I'm like, well, Yes and no. Like if you think about Leamington to Windsor, it's about half hour, 45 if you hop on
45
Highway
minutes,
3. But like that's not much for people coming out of town.
Yeah, so we live in Bell River, me and my husband, and we live in Bell River, and he works in Kingsville, Ruthven, and of course my office is on Dougal. It takes me 25 minutes. Well, a normal person, it would probably take them 20 minutes. But it takes me 25 minutes to get here, and it takes him 30 to 35 minutes to his work. So when you're in the center of it all, like it's beautiful. That same distance, if you lived in Kitchener or Toronto or any of those areas, it would take you longer to get to. I remember visiting my friend in Kitchener, and I was trying to get off I got off the 401, and it should have taken me 10 minutes from the 401 to her house. It took me 40 minutes to get there. And it's not like I got lost or anything like that. It was the traffic.
Yeah.
Where do you see traffic here? Like,
It's you see traffic when there's an accident on the EC Road Expressway, right? And everyone slows down because that's like our major thoroughfare in Windsor, Essex. But you're right on that. And I think, as the market continues to adjust as we head into 2026, and we still see people come in from Windsor, from the Toronto area and beyond, making sure, and I want to hammer this home because I know this is our first time doing this together, but I always tell my clients from the onset, whether they're coming from out of town or they're Windsorite, born and bred, please, 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 help me help you when you are going to look for a home, okay? Know your numbers. Please get a pre-approval, because I can work with anybody. I prefer working with Rasha, but I can work with anybody from a mortgage perspective. But what's great about Rasha and her team is we'll communicate. Once our clients sign off, we'll communicate so we know what the parameters are. I was saying it's kind of like you go grocery shopping and you don't know what's on the list. Are you going to get seafood, or are you going to go get a steak and you get a hamburger? You don't know because you don't have a list. If you have the list, then we can really focus on what we want, get into the grocery store, find a good deal on something, and get the heck out based on what you can afford.
It's funny that you say that, because I walk into a grocery store and like my cart gets filled with a lot of stuff.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
My husband walks into a grocery store and he's got this app with a list.
Oh yeah, go right through it.
And he goes right to it, and he's in and out, and he doesn't buy extra stuff. So I like his method, because you're not spending more money than you should. Now, you know what I wanted? I wanted to bring an example.
Sure.
I did math on something where, let's say about a year ago, when price values, or even the price values were around, let's say, if you bought a house for $550,000, maybe not a year ago, let's say 4 years ago, when interest rates were at 2%. Okay?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, interest rates were at 2%. You buy a house for $550,000. You put $30,000 down. Okay, because that's the minimum down payment on $550,000.
Okay.
After CMHC fees and everything at 2%, your monthly payment would have been $2,423 a month.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk monthly terms. I know a lot of people like to do weekly or biweekly payments. Now, that same house that, let's say in the when prices were high, that you could have bought for $550,000, now you can buy for about $450,000. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, as you increase inventory, buyers have more selection, so there's not a rush. So you have to be sharp on that pricing. So I would agree.
Yeah.
It's really a competition, right? Just to interject, like when I take a look at somebody selling a home, I will show comps over the last 6 months. I don't think those tell us an accurate story. You can show you what your neighbor sold for 6 months ago. It's changed, and it is changing.
Yeah.
I'd rather show you who's on the market right now and how their home is different from yours. Yeah. Because if I have buyer clients, I put on that buyer's representation hat. I'm going to show them the gauntlet of homes, and we are going to leverage those homes. What has more, and where's the value in that particular home? So to answer your question, yes, 100%.
Yes. So $550,000, and even talking to appraisers, because we talk to them every day, those price values have come down, and let's say that $550,000 house has come down to $450,000. Now that $450,000 house, remember, when it was $550,000, you had to put the minimum down payment of $30,000 down.
Yes.
Today at 450, you're putting a down payment of $22,500. Okay. Now, the interest rate, yes, it's not 2% like it was, but today's rates are hovering around 3.79, 3.89. Okay.
Yep.
So it's 1.79, 1.89%, let's say 2% more than it was then. Okay. Do you know what that payment is today? So 550 with 30,000 down at 2%.
Yeah.
The payment is $2,423.
Okay.
Okay. 450, 5% down. That payment at 3.79 is $2,290. $133 less. Okay. And $8,000 less in down payment. Plus you're saving on CMHC fees, land transfer tax. Okay, so what I say to my clients is, we don't have those 2% rates anymore. We're hovering in the 3% now, but you can still get a good price home. That same house for $450,000 would have sold for $550 in the peak value times.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you think about it that way, it's really good. You're missing out on opportunity. You wait for interest rates to drop. I think rates are going to continue to drop. Yeah. But if you wait any longer for rates to drop, price values might end up going back up again.
Yeah, it's that seesaw,
yeah.
Right? If you really look at it, it's like a seesaw, and I love that Rasha illuminated that, because if we find a house and you're good with losing the house. Say if we get, and there's a situation we get into multiple offers, we'll say that for another show, right? Yeah. My theory on multiple offers, right, in today's market. But let's just say if we're competing with another offer, and you're okay to lose a house over $5,000, I'm good. I'm good. But if you're going to drive by that house every day and go, I should have did it.
I shouldn't.
If you look at what that looks like over 25 years, because like when I tell my clients, I go, think about where you're going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? So if the plan is to have a kid, stay put, maybe it's close to your work, then yeah, let's take a look at, you're probably going to be there for about another 10 years, right? But if you're like, yeah, we're going to pump out another kid, we're going to go, we want to get into this school district, my work is bringing me here, then you kind of break up your life in fives. But if you're going to drive by that house and you're going to say, oh, I should have did it, then really take a look at what that's going to be, because you don't want to lose a house over that. Well, my job is to give you, it's not to sell the house. I tell people all the time, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not an agent that goes through, and I might get a little flack for this, but I'm not an agent that goes through and say, this is a kitchen, this is, no, like you know what this is, right? Right? I'll go in and people laugh because I make a beeline for the basement every time if there's a basement, or I'll look at the crawl space, because I'm looking for the things that when you don't get excited about, I'm looking at things that kind of put my spider sense on high alert, because I want to make sure that we have the best information going forward. But my job is to give you my advice and my opinion, and then help you make a decision that makes sense for you. So if it's okay to let it go for 5, and like you said, and when you look crunch numbers like that, then okay. But if you love the house and you want to plant some roots, and it goes back to what we initially talked about as we started the show, is the neighborhood good? Does the neighborhood show that it's going to necessarily increase in time in terms of equity that I can pull out? What kind of renovations would you be planning on doing? School district, all of those different things. I'm out in the Amherstburg area myself. I'm in Windsor all the time, Lakeshore all the time, but I'm seeing a lot of growth in Amherstburg, lots of growth in Lakeshore, where you guys are at too. So those are some really good areas, I think, for people to consider. LaSalle too, another great area too, but I guess it goes back to knowing your numbers and making sure you have that good advice. Yeah.
One thing I do that's funny, I don't know if other people do it, if I buy a home, I knock on the neighbors' doors.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I go to the front neighbor, the side neighbors, 100%. And then like maybe 3 or 4 of them, and I say, hey, I'm Rasha and Grata, and I'm looking to buy the house here, and tell me about your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you can get that vibe from them, like, oh, I've been here for 30 years. It's beautiful. People walk their dog. Like they just get into conversations.
Straight from the horse's mouth, right? Like these people who've been in the neighborhood, they know what's going on. I like to do that too, even when we do an open house. Like when And that's a whole other topic for another show. Open houses, right? There's two schools of thought, and you know that they're popping up everywhere. Like during the height of COVID, nobody was having an open house. Now every weekend it's like, oh my God, let's go on the tour. But when I do an open house, Debbie, my partner, she very much enjoys doing them. She will do them anytime. I like to be very strategic when it comes to our marketing. So if I'm going to launch a home through our marketing system, and I'm going to be hosting the open house, I do that first week, and I also tie it in with our radio contributions. Okay, right? Nice. We do a lot of radio work on a local radio station here in Windsor, Essex, so I like to create an event out of it, so there's a demand, hopefully. But I will go to the neighbors' doors, and I'll knock, I'll introduce myself, hopefully they don't throw something at me. And I say, look, I'm not here to sell you anything, I just want to let you know that we're representing these fine folks. What do you love about the neighborhood? Right? And they'll say, my kids went to school here, my husband built that. And that's good information for me, because then I can get a good barometer of what's happening in the neighborhood, just like you do when we're purchasing. And it's a great way to just kind of talk to people too, right? I had this question on one of the Facebook market groups, like buy and sell Windsor or whatever. And somebody was commenting about, this area in the neighborhood. I said, look, you can get all of that commentary here on social media, but you can also check on Google. But the best way to do it is to have your realtor give you a sense of what's happening in that neighborhood, because they have lived experience, or they know what's really happening because they talk to the business owners, they talk to the people in the neighborhood, they bought and sold. I think that makes a good difference with any mortgage professional or realtor, is that somebody who's lived, worked, and been in the area for as many years as they've been.
And that's very important too. I was talking to somebody today that is buying a home in Windsor, and actually LaSalle, I should say, and they're from Toronto, and they have a realtor from Toronto. And he asked me the question, and he said, we have a realtor, we're coming down to Windsor. And I said, I appreciate that you have a realtor in Toronto, but to be honest, if I was buying a house in Toronto, I would, even if I had a realtor in Windsor, I would have my realtor in Windsor connect with a realtor in Toronto, okay, and they would partner up to find me the property that I'm looking for.
That's right.
Because a realtor in Windsor doesn't really know Toronto very well. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with that. And I think it's funny you should bring that up too, because the way there are ways when you're writing. See, a lot of people think when you sign a contract, right, for an APS, we call it an agreement of purchase and sale, right? So you sign the APS, and you have your financing clause in there, condition in there. You have your home inspection condition in there, right? I just ran into this 2 weeks ago for clients of mine over on Lloyd George, just off of Jefferson, kind of in the East Windsor area, right? So we had a couple of offers come in from Toronto agents, and I got 3 pages of conditions. And this is standard practice in Toronto, apparently, and I'm looking at this because I've got an accepted offer, conditional offer already.
3 pages of conditions, 3 pages?
3 pages. And I don't want to get into it because you have to do your due diligence, right? You do your due diligence, but if you've already got, I got an accepted offer on my property for my clients. It is my duty representing the seller, my fiduciary duty to the sellers to protect them, and that means looking at conditions, because a conditional offer is what if. It's not concrete, it's what if, right? What happens if they don't get the financing within 5 business days? Well, they can walk, right? What happens if the home inspection doesn't come back? Then we go toe to toe, and if they don't concede or we don't concede, they can walk. So it's mitigating risk, right? Numbers on an APS are important. People want to make the most money on their home. I always tell people this all the time. But I can throw numbers on paper all day, but if it's conditional on me doing something or achieving something, this had a condition of getting a survey, and this is an older neighborhood on Lloyd George. I say, I don't really need to, why the survey? To me, that I look at that kind of thing, and to protect my sellers, again, those are a lot of outs.
Yeah.
Where they could hit.
And they can get out easily.
They can get out easily. So it's you want to work with your sellers, but to see 3 pages, and I said to the agent, well, that's what we do in Toronto. Well, here in Windsor, it's a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So again, you always want to protect your client. That's what we do. But at the same token, it's
yeah.
You know, you have to mitigate the risk. That's what I said to my clients, right? Like the numbers on paper are good, but what is the risk of you not getting it? Well, we have to go back to market, and now we're 3 weeks into the market as opposed to 2.
And the older, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a realtor, I'm just a mortgage agent. The older the house, how should I say it? The longer the house stays on the market, the probability of it selling for a good price is.
Oh, you open up a can of worms on this, right?
Is that another show?
No, well, I'll get into it now, and then we'll save it for next time, right? I'll get into it just a little bit. Look, my team and I'm very data driven, from our marketing all the way to how I'm all about the feedback, and I can quantify our social media reach down to who's seeing it, and that, you know, women 25, 54, if they're located in Tecumseh. I'm really proud of that. We're actually expanding that with our team, with the help of you. But what I like to do is I take that data, because data should drive decisions, right? You take the emotion out of the question. I'll know within the first 30 days. 30 days.
Yep. That's a good time. Yeah.
30 days, and then I tell them we're gonna have a conversation, and I'm good with whatever you want to do. I'm good. All I can do, I'm not here to sell your home. I'm going to do it. I'm here to advise you. So if the market is speaking to us, are we listening? Because I like to do 10 days, we should have at least one offer.
Yep.
10 showings, we should have at least one offer. If we don't, then let's look at the social media data. We do a lot of, as you know, real estate, like mortgages, right?
Yeah.
You have to put content everywhere that you can, and it has to be value-added content.
Yeah.
For me, going into a home, because of my broadcast background, it's very important for me. Like, I've got a listing right now on Boblo, and Boblo, if you live and breathe in Windsor, you remember their amusement park over. I loved it. We used to go over all the time. Well, my clients actually built a kitchen island out of the old bumper car building.
Oh, wow.
And they have it certified. It's a real good, and it's beautiful. So in addition to doing, hey, check out this new listing I've got, right? Video, everybody does them or should do them. We actually spent the time to carve out a sort of story out of that and showcase that particular piece, because it was actually made by local artisan Michael DeFazio, right?
Okay.
So I like to have that holistic approach. So to go back to whether or not days on market matter, all of that content that we're building should go towards the sale of your home. And I sit down with my assistant Vanessa every Sunday night, like clockwork, and we go through the process of where we're putting the content: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, you name it. Are we doing traditional media, CKLW? Are we putting it in the paper? So we have a good holistic approach to show you verbatim who's seeing it, how they saw it, and how they're interacting with it. Because when our numbers speak, again, that goes to whether or not it's making the sale, or if we need to adjust our strategy. Hoping for the unicorn to appear and give you millions upon millions of dollars, I would love that. I mean, I would love, but that's not realistic. You have to be realistic. So, but then as a buyer's agent, right? So if I'm representing you and we're looking for a property, and I see something that's been days on market, 90 plus days, there's blood in the water. I'm automatically going to do how many times have they reduced? Why are they selling? Why is it on the market for as long as it has? Do they need to sell, have to sell, want to sell? And can I offer some certainty with my client if we're coming in with a quote unquote cash offer, or as clean of an offer as we can? Wow. So to answer your question, days on market in this market,
it's important.
Huge.
I mean, we can save a lot of this for the next show, but the one thing I do love about your marketing is you make me laugh.
Oh, thank you.
You do.
God bless you.
And I do. Like when you jump in those pools, and
good time in the summer.
When you're like, what was the other one? You were sitting down having a drink or something like that. Like
my clients have good booze. I'm gonna have some. I'm gonna try it. No, right?
You're looking in their cabinets.
I look in their cabinets. It's funny. I grew up watching Ty Pennington. Right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a contractor, but watching these home, and even Mike Holmes and these guys, and the Property Brothers and things like that. And I look at that and I say, like, this is still content, we're consuming it. So everyone's going to say, welcome to my latest listing. Here's, like, I get it. And good, that's a form of marketing. My job is to, and it's not for everybody, but it's to showcase a home and give some value to it. So someone's like, oh my God, that's really neat. We've seen some really good creative options for it. I know our creative team loves it because it allows me to bang out when I need to bang out. Like, people think, oh, you spend all day doing the shoot. No, we're out and half an hour because I used to do that stuff all the time when I was
Yeah,
working on
yeah.
television, right? So it's really important for me to do that kind of stuff and do it authentically. And some properties warrant it, some properties don't, and that's really where I think we take great pride to kind of find out the story behind the property, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people have to sell, they need to sell, maybe it's a life change, maybe it's a passing of a loved one, so we're very respectful of that.
Yeah.
We have to be, we want to be. But generally speaking, man, it's the summertime and you're in the Windsor heat, I'm jumping in your pool, you can guarantee it.
Or there's another one, you were in a canoe or something, and I kind of...
Yeah, I was, and they wouldn't let me off the dock. They actually tied me because they're like, this idiot's gonna get lost, right? So they actually tied my canoe. And our videographer at the time was like, you're such a, and you know what? We ended up getting, I think on that one was like 5,200 views in like 22 hours.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all about storytelling and presenting the product in a good manner, but like adding some, I call it salt and pepper. Adding the salt and pepper to your food and making it flavorful. So, yeah.
My partners will not do it, by the way. Like Ron and Debbie, I love them. They're like, you're the video guy. So it's like, they'll get a listing and like, it's part of our team atmosphere, but I'm like, okay, I'm showing up to do something.
Aren't they always in Florida?
Yeah, yeah, they tag in and out, and then sometimes we're there too. But no, they're like, that's you do your thing. So I have a lot of fun.
So, okay, do you have anything else to say? Or?
I'm trying to think if we could do something else for... No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's good for a good show, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And then it'll give us a ton of content.
Yeah.
Right? For at least a month and a half, you think?
Another month or so.
Yeah, and then we can just do this again.
Yeah. Okay. I look forward to it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always nice having you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.